Vigil, Ante, and the Vigilante Antics by BelleAmant. Read by Oakshadow 5. Chapter 7. Happy Birthday, Hitoshi. Part 1. It's on Hitoshi's 13th birthday when the boys finally leave the orphanage for good. Izuku had been planning the surprise for months, tracking their earnings closely and making sure that there'd be enough. There was plenty, considering the boys didn't have to buy food. Every meal at the orphanage was money saved to get out, and they needed to spend wisely in order to have enough. But finally, Izuku knows they have enough. They can cover half a year's rent and groceries, and still have some extra. It's not like they're hurting for cash, not really. For two kids, one of them barely a teen and the other just around the corner, they're doing really well. Hitoshi, Izuku whispers to the sleeping teen. He's a teen now, Izuku thinks as he nudges the boy's shoulder. We've been here for almost 9 years, almost a decade. The thought makes Izuku frown, but a surprise for Hitoshi brings a smile right back. What is it? Hitoshi asks, voice quiet as he looks around. None of the other kids are up, it's just Izuku and Hitoshi. Just like always. Happy birthday, Hitoshi, Izuku whispers, and Hitoshi snorts. Thanks. Can I sleep now? It's way too early for this. Don't you want to see a surprise? Izuku asks, nudging his soul friend once more. Can't it wait? Hitoshi rolls over, trying to cover himself with the lousy excuse of a blanket that he has. I mean, I thought you'd want to finally get out of here, but if you like the orphanage so much… Wait! Hitoshi sits up quickly, sleep fading from his eyes. Do you mean… Happy birthday, we're getting out? He makes it sound more like a prison than an orphanage, but it makes Hitoshi grin. Finally! He cheers, causing the kid beside him to grumble and roll away, fastening away from the door as he falls back asleep. Hitoshi doesn't bother apologizing, knowing the kid won't hear him. Instead, he pulls himself out of the bed. What do I need to do, Izuku? We need to gather our stuff, but that'll be easy. Izuku starts, and the two reach under the beds. They don't have much at the orphanage, none of the kids do. It's hard to maintain the place as it is. There's no room in the budget for more than what they need. The boys knew better than to buy themselves much, or the other kids might have gotten curious, or worse, suspicious. As a result, it only takes a few minutes for the boys to gather everything. Everything means a few pairs of clothes, their school supplies, and a few random things such as a hairbrush and a picture of the two standing together, smiling brightly despite all that's happened to them. Izuku can't quite remember who took the photo, but he thinks it was a nice lady who wanted them to have a keepsake. They were only 7 back then, still young, still unnoticed by anyone at all. It's Izuku's most prized possession, other than his gear. He's pretty sure Hitoshi feels the same. All of their stuff is packed away efficiently into the backpacks, which the boys hoist onto their shoulders. Hitoshi looks to Izuku for guidance, his violet eyes more vibrant than usual as he follows the brunette to the front desk. Mrs. Hata is there. She blinks as she spots them walking up to her, then smiles. Good morning, boys. You two are up early. Good morning, Hata-san, Izuku replies easily, smiling brightly. We're just eager to get to class. Isn't that a Saturday? Mrs. Hata laughs. You two should be out playing. We don't have the time for that, Hitoshi says, and Mrs. Hata frowns. I do wish you boys wouldn't be so hard on yourselves. You have so much time to do everything, and that includes taking a break. Izuku nudges Hitoshi, who looks at him with questioning eyes. Izuku itches at his chin, then taps at his lips subtly. Hitoshi's eyes light up, understanding. I suppose you're right, Hitoshi agrees. It's almost upsetting to see how Mrs. Hata perks up at the statement. What do you think we should do then? Well, you could always go to the Her voice cuts off abruptly, eyes going blank, as Hitoshi uses his quirk. Tell her to give us our adoption papers, and then to forget about us completely, Izuku instructs, and Hitoshi relays the command. Mrs. Hata wanders over to a filing cabinet, and after a few moments, hands over a couple of files. Hitoshi takes them, careful not to nudge the brainwashed woman as he stores the papers in his bag. It's only when Hitoshi has his backpack on once again that Izuku reaches out and taps the woman's arm. She snaps out of her trance in confusion, then looks at them with a sweet smile. Oh, hello! Are you two new here? Mrs. Hata asks, knowing nothing about them. Izuku shakes his head, grin growing. No, I was just wondering where the grocery store's from here. My friend and I got a bit lost, and we think we took a wrong turn. Mrs. Hata relays the directions easily, then goes back to work. Hitoshi follows Izuku out of the orphanage, and they begin to walk away. Just like that? We're out? Hitoshi says, a smile ghosting on his face. I can't believe it. Well, you better, because we're going to have a new home soon, Izuku says. We just need to get the money, and then we're all good. The trip to the base goes without incident. Well, there's a moment of panic where Darby sees them without their masks, but Hitoshi brainwashes him to forget. They sell Darby some smoke bombs, unsure of why a guy with a firecrack would need the things, but unwilling to ask. Then, Darby goes on his way, and the boys go on theirs. They both have an extra bag now, a duffel bag each. A few more sets of clothes are shoved in, covering the vigilante gear and most of their cash. Now we don't have to worry about villains finding our most important stuff, Izuku thinks happily, the day getting even better. Getting the apartment isn't too hard, Hitoshi using his quirk to convince the owner that, yes, their father already came in and explained that the boys would sign the lease in his name and pay. Yes, sir, it's legal. Now, forget that the boys signed the lease, because the father already did that. What's the matter, sir? You seem a little dazed. Why don't you go rest? We can find the apartment ourselves. Maybe it's a little cruel, but Izuku and Hitoshi are far from being held back due to a lack of parents. The apartment is what most could consider small, if they had lived in anything other than an orphanage for the majority of their life. There's a few rooms. By entering through the front door, the first thing to be seen is the tiny kitchen, with a small living room-esque area beside it. Cooking appliances, a couch, and a chair are all visible, and Izuku smiles, glad that he chose a pre-furnished apartment. There's 2 closed doors on the one wall of their living area. The first shows a small bathroom, the other holds a bedroom with a queen-sized bed, dresser, and closet. A window rests above the bed, large enough to get in and out with ease. There, on the top floor, a detail that Izuku had made sure they asked for, all the better for sneaking out at night for vigilante purposes. The rest of the apartment is empty, leaving room for the boys to drop their bags. They drop onto the bed, letting the mattress sink slightly under the sudden weight. We have a home, Hitoshi says, staring up at the ceiling, and Izuku chuckles. We really do, don't we? He responds. Hey, Izuku? Yeah? Thanks. It's your birthday, you don't have to thank me. Besides, you did half of the work for the money. Not just for the apartment, idiot. Hitoshi snorts at Izuku's fake gasp of mock offense. Thank you for being there. For always being there. Even with my quirk, even though I'm not as smart or brave as you. Hitoshi! Izuku cuts him off, silencing the boy. I'm happy to be here. You're my best friend. You don't have to be anything else than who you are. Your quirk makes you, you. He smiles at Hitoshi, who gives a teary smile back. And besides, you're plenty smart and brave. Thank you, Hitoshi whispers again, and then he's pulling Izuku into a hug. It's my pleasure, Izuku whispers back as his own arms wrap around Hitoshi, meaning every single word. It's Hitoshi's 13th birthday when the boys move out of the orphanage and find a home. And home is with each other. Oh my gosh, this chapter is so cute. They're finally out of the orphanage and have their own home. And home is with each other. That line is so But anyways, guys, I hope you all enjoyed chapter 7 of Vigil, Ante, and the Vigilante Antics. And I'll see you all next time. Bye!